But right now, we are living through this incredibly unique era where long-standing milestones from 1958, 2006, and 2014 are being actively challenged and rewritten right before our eyes.
Okay, let's quickly map out where we're headed. We're going to look at reshaping the World Cup, legends of the goal, youth, saves and discipline, ending decades of heartbreak, and finally, firsts on the world stage.
Kicking things off with Section 1, Reshaping the World Cup. For the very first time, we've got three nations, Canada, Mexico, and the USA, teaming up to co-host. And you know, this actually makes Mexico the first country in history to host the tournament 3 times, adding 2026 to their legendary runs in 1970 and 1986. Now, to really wrap our heads around the history we're witnessing, just think about this number, 1,000. Since the very first match back in 1930, it's all been building up to June 20, 2026. That Group F clash between Japan and Tunisia? Yeah, it wasn't just another group stage game. It officially marked the 1,000th match in the entire history of the FIFA World Cup. Literally 1,000 games in the making.
So why are so many records falling right now? Well, it's basically a numbers game. When you compare the 2022 format to 2026, we've seen a jump from 32 teams up to 48 teams. And total matches? They skyrocketed from 64 to 104. With that much more soccer being played, it mathematically just makes sense that those long-standing records are finally going to tumble.
And trust me, that massive expansion is totally reflected in the stakes. We're looking at a record-breaking total prize pool of $871 million. To put that into perspective for you, that is a whopping $431 million higher than the 2022 edition. The scale is bigger, the stakes are wild, and the players are absolutely rising to the occasion.
Moving right along to Section 2, Legends of the Goal.
This is where we see the ultimate collision of eras. Back in 2014, Germany's Miroslav Klose set the absolute gold standard, becoming the all-time leading goal scorer with 16 career goals. But then, enter the 2026 challenger, Lionel Messi. Coming into the tournament with 13 goals, Messi dropped a phenomenal group stage hat-trick against Algeria. And just like that, he officially leveled Klose's legendary record of 16 goals at the absolute pinnacle of the sport.
And get this, that exact same hat-trick made Messi the first player in history to score against 11 different nations. Mind-blowing, right? But hey, when we talk absolute dominance, we have to bow down to 1958. France's Just Fontaine set a single tournament record that's practically bulletproof, 13 goals in just one edition. Still, the modern guys are chasing it hard. Kylian Mbappe, for instance, added 2 more goals against Senegal in his 2026 opener, keeping him steadily climbing that all-time list.
Which brings us to Section 3, Youth, Saves, and Disciplines.
Let's go back to 1958 again for a second. A 17-year-old Pele completely captured the world's imagination, becoming the youngest player ever to score in a World Cup. Fast forward to 2026, and we've got a serious challenger, Spain's Lamine Yamal. At just 18 years old, Yamal became the youngest player since Pele to open the scoring at a match. Plus, he became the youngest ever to score in both a European Championship and a World Cup. Just incredible. Now, shifting our focus to the other end of the pitch, away from the goal scorers, you might be wondering who actually holds the ultimate defensive benchmark for keeping the ball out of the net.
Well, that benchmark was set in 2014 by USA goalkeeper Tim Howard, who made a legendary superhuman 16 saves in a single match against Belgium. Enter the 2026 challenger, Curaçao's Eloy Room. Room put on an absolute masterclass, racking up 15 saves in a gritty 0-0 draw against Ecuador. He narrowly missed Howard's overall record, but Room did set a brand new milestone for the most saves in a non-extra time match since data tracking officially began back in 1966.
And you know, it's not just the positive records being tested here. When it comes to pure on-field chaos, the benchmark has long been the 2006 Battle of Nuremberg between Portugal and Holland, which saw 4 red cards. While the 2026 challenger came right out of the gate. The opening match between Mexico and South Africa saw an unprecedented 3 direct red cards. That is the most ever issued in a World Cup opener. The sheer intensity of this expanded format is definitely translating into some highly physical matchups.
All right, on to Section 4, Ending Decades of Heartbreak.
52. I really want you to let that number sink in. That is the staggering number of years that both DR Congo and Haiti had to wait to return to the World Cup. We're talking over half a century of missing out on the world's biggest sporting event, and now that wait is finally over. These nations endured massive generational gaps. DR Congo, who actually competed as Zaire back in the day, and Haiti both last appeared in 1974. Iraq faced a brutal 40-year absence dating back to 1986. And European nations like Austria, Norway, and Scotland, they hadn't been seen since 1998. Decades of heartache all converge into this massive, grand 2026 return.
So how did these big returns actually play out on the pitch in 2026? Well, it was a real mix of triumph and some pretty tough lessons. DR Congo secured a massive, historic 1-1 draw against a powerhouse Portugal team thanks to a huge equalizer by Yoane Wissa. Norway totally dominated fellow returnee Iraq 4-1, fueled by 2 goals from Erling Haaland. And Scotland edged out Haiti 1-0. Unfortunately for Haiti, their difficult return did result in 2 losses and an early elimination.
But while so many nations are celebrating their grand returns, there is a glaring, historic absence we have to talk about. 4-time champions, Italy actually failed to qualify. This makes them the very first former champion in the entire history of the sport to miss 3 consecutive tournaments. It's a sobering reminder that history really does cut both ways.
Finally, let's dive into Section 5, Firsts on the World Stage. Way back in 1930, France's Lucien Laurent set the ultimate benchmark by scoring the very first goal in World Cup history. Fast forward to 2026, and Mexico's Julian Quinones is etching his own name into the books. By scoring the opening goal of the 2026 tournament, he made it the very first time a player from a CONCACAF nation ever opened a World Cup edition. We also witnessed some incredible firsts from tournament debutants. Both Jordan and Uzbekistan made their historic first appearances in 2026. And look, while both teams suffered tough 3-1 defeats in their opening matches, they still found these moments of pure magic. Jordan's Ali Alwan scored his country's first ever World Cup goal against Austria, and Uzbekistan's Abusbek Faizaleyev did the exact same thing against Colombia. And obviously, we can't forget about the co-hosts. Appearing in back-to-back tournaments for the first time, Canada finally broke through their own historical ceiling. They earned their first ever World Cup point in a really hard-fought draw against Bosnia, and then they followed it up with a spectacular, historic first victory, just absolutely dominating Qatar 6-0. As we wrap up this explainer, we've seen how the sheer, massive scale of 2026 has brought these long-standing records from 1958, 2006, So I'll leave you with this to chew on. As the beautiful game continues to expand, are these new milestones permanent fixtures of greatness? Or is the record book now simply meant to be rewritten every 4 years? Thanks for hanging out with us, and keep your eyes on the pitch.